Welcome to the training video for power distribution. If this is the second or third video you've heard from me, then you're probably getting sick of my voice. But if not, nice to meet you. My name is Edwin McDonald. I am the assistant to Tex, the main engineer on board. He's asked me to get a training video for all of the bridge stations up. Now, I'm squeezing this in the wee hours I've got between massive duty shifts, so be grateful for what you get, alright? Now, you've got this little sphere at the center of your screen. If you click on that, it'll give you these different things you can click on. Click on Access Terminal and it'll ask you to put in your name, just like I'm doing right now. There, that's my moniker. One you'll want to know forever, I'm sure. Now click OK and now you'll have access to the station. Now, to actually do things here, take your mouse like the one I'm waving in front of you and go to the top right corner of the screen, and it'll give you access to these two different windows. You've got power distribution and power regulation. Click on power distribution first. That's the most important one for this station. Now, you see that there are several systems on this ship that we have available to use. This is a very important screen because this ship doesn't do much if its systems don't work, and those systems don't work if they don't have enough power to run. And the power that they need to run is controlled in this screen. Now you notice that there are these green boxes next to them with numbers, and there's also these wee little yellow slashes. What could they all mean? Well, the amount of power that is currently in the system are the green bars. You can drag them up or down at will by just clicking and dragging, and on the very endmost bar, and you can make it whatever you like. And you see that the number to the left for the warp engines is changing as I do that. Well, these yellow boxes tell you how much power you actually need to run the station. Some of them only have one, like thrusters. That means you only need to ever put 8 power in thrusters and you're good. If you take it just one down, even just one down into 7, these thrusters won't work and you'll hear right wing cussing and screaming at you. Maybe throwing things if the first officer isn't keeping a tight watch on discipline. Could be an interesting social experiment if you ever want to try it. Anyway, now some of these have 1 bar, like I said, but some of them got 2. What did that mean? Well, it means that there are different levels of operation. For instance, the shields. The shield sometimes needs an extra kick of power to give us that extra layer of defense. That's what the second line is here for. Same with tractor beam. If you really need to tow something massive, you just drag it up to the front. This end bar right there. Sensors can do the same. Now, the impulse engines and the warp engines have the extra power as well. But they don't necessarily mean extra levels up, if you will. This just means that if you want to go faster, you got to have more power. This line here would only get us up to a warp 1, a tiny wee weakling sort of speed. If you want to get to real speeds like warp 4, 5, 6, you've got to drag up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Warp 6, you see that? 7, 8, 9. And is there a 1 beyond 9? No, of course not. You don't get up to warp 10. That's being everywhere at once. That's crazy talk. But you can have emergency speeds of warp 9.5, 9.78. Well, that's what this will get you to. Oops, excuse me. If you really want to punch it, you've got to have 42 power in those warp engines. You see that? Now, can you just crank everything up to maximum? Why not just do this? Why not just always have it up at the top like that? Well, we can't exactly do that, you see. See this number down here, 187? That is the sum of all of these numbers here. And if that number is exceeding this number, what is this number? Well, it's labeled total power available. If you have completed the station to the left here at the dilithium control, you'll know what that number means. That means that we're getting half of all the power coming out of the dilithium crystal. And that number can go up or down depending on what that dilithium crystal station does. So if you need more, you go and talk to that guy. Now, you need to make sure that these numbers match. No more, no less than 140. And this number will change. You must be very vigilant. If you don't have these two numbers matching, the computer's going to start throwing warnings at you saying power imbalance detected, and then there'll be hell to pay eventually. So you've got to make sure they match, right? So we're cranking way too much power into those warp engines, and we're still 20 over. Good heavens, we're still 10 over. Where can we get all this power out? Now everything's at minimum and I'm still 2 over. Good heavens, that means we're going to have to start making some... Oh, that's not true. I've got some extra in the tractor beam and in sensor control. Now you see that I've got 8 that I'm not using. Now this is also bad, you see, because this creates a feedback loop in power and it's going to start melting things. And if you have too much, well, you're putting a severe strain on all of our power resources. So we really have to make sure that they match. So you got 8 extra power. What can we do? Standard thing to do is just make sure you're ready to go to a higher warp. So now we can go up to warp 3 whenever the captain wants. But if he wants to go faster, we're going to have to start making decisions. What do we power down? Well, if you're not in a battle, maybe you don't need power in the phasers or torpedoes. Then we can crank these up. In fact, looks like we can go to our maximum with some to spare. So these are the sort of decisions that you've got to make whenever you do this station. Now, if you ever want to know if these numbers, you can't quite add them or subtract them quickly enough in your head, you've got this number right here that does it for you. These computers are real great at how they do everything for you, aren't they? Well, with that being said, I'm going to let you balance the power yourself. Go ahead and pause the video and start it again when you've finished. All right, I'm assuming now that you've got things ship-shape and under control. Wow. And we can now move on to power regulation. This is a very rarely used screen actually, but this is where we can make sure that all of our different rooms have lights on and the heat on and all that sort of thing. If you really want to figure it out, you go to these decks. You've got the different decks on the ship, and if you go to these decks, good heavens, it's not even showing the rooms in them. Ah, there we are. So that's how it's done. Like I said, it's been a while. Now, if you want to control the power in each different room, you click on where the room is. It could be in the central core, the nose of the ship, and the nacelles. That's where the warp engines coils are that shoots everywhere. Or you could look at all the rooms. Well, so they say anyway. It's not like, it doesn't look like we have very much options here. But if you go to these, you'll see that we've got several rooms in the ship, and they're all listed alphabetically, so you don't have to go searching through them willy-nilly. But you can come into any room you want. For instance, I like to go into the classrooms where the kids are learning and sometimes play tricks on them. I'm going to take this and power it down. Oh no, those wee children are now in the dark screaming their guts out, I'm sure. And then it brings it back up. Well, I've done it so many times I doubt they're screaming anymore. But you get the picture. But you can control the power in any room you like, simply as that. Now, what is this for over here? Well, if you want to, if you really want to, you can do power in an entire deck. Somehow. Ah, that's how. You click on all rooms, and then when you click on the deck, yeah, it tells you some of the rooms on that deck. You said, now wait a minute, we had nothing before when I went to all rooms. Looks like there's some bugs in this system that we'll have to get one of our computer specialists to check on someday. But if you click on all rooms and then you have access to these decks, you can look at all the rooms on a single deck, or you can look at every room in the entire ship. And from there you can take the individual decks and you can turn off the lights or on, whatever you so desire. And that's this station. Sometimes you get power requests from people down below deck saying, hey, my lights are off. Would you stop doing that to this children? That's what the one I always get. And then you can decide whether or not you answer it. But if you don't answer them, well, word's going to get to the first officer eventually, and you might end up spending some time in the brig. Don't ask me how I know that. All right, well, I think that concludes this station. You can stop your tape, raise your hand, and move on.